Welcome to the CHCH Newsmakers podcast. I'm your host, Rick Zamperin. If it's making news in Hamilton, Halton, and Niagara, across Canada or around the world, rest assured I'll tackle it here on Newsmakers. He was one of the hockey's most electrifying superstars and left a lasting impression on fans, coaches, and teammates. A new book is out that tells the story in a very unique way of Montreal Canadiens legend Guy Lafleur. Joining me on the Newsmakers podcast to talk about Lafleur, the legend, is co-author Stephen Finn. Stephen, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. It's my pleasure.
Why did you want to write a book about the great Guy Lafleur?
Well, first of all, I have the privilege of playing 2 years with Guy. That was such a privilege. Like I said, it was an honor to play with this guy, and I got to know him pretty good, and I loved the man. And it was my co-author, Pierre Gens, that approached me with the project. Pierre wrote a few books in the past, and he wanted to see if I was interested, and I said yes. I'm very happy I said yes. It was a lot of work, but it was an amazing project. And we're very happy with the book. Obviously.
Yeah, it must be a very daunting project because you must have a gazillion stories about Guy Lafleur.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories, and the way the book is structured, it's 40 witnesses that were very close to Guy, either ex-teammate with the Montreal Canadiens in the 70s when Guy was probably the top player in the world, teammates with the New York Rangers when he came back with the Quebec Nordiques, ex-coaches, reporters, trainers. So it was a big project, and we're very fortunate. It was important for us when we started to have the Guy's family behind us, and as well as the Montreal Canadiens alumni, because they're a close-knit family as well. So we met with Martin Lafleur, Guy's son, and with Régent Houle, that was the leading the Alumni Association then. He did for a long time. And these people were behind us, and we're very fortunate because you look at the list of witnesses, most of them are all Hall of Famers. So and they were very generous, and we're very lucky that they trusted us and they took the time to share their story about Guy. Because like I said, they're all Hall of Famer, and everybody wants a piece of them. So that was a big project, but I'm very happy with the result.
The format of the book, the way you told the story of Guy Lafleur through these witness accounts, is very unique. It was almost like you were at, a pub or a coffee shop listening to these stories.
Yeah, you're right. Some of them we did live, and some of them we did Zoom. And we spent 45, 60 minutes with all of them, and every chapter honestly is very special. And it was an amazing experience for me to spend time with these guys.
In addition to the players and the Hall of Famers that you spoke with, he also spoke, as you mentioned, to Guy's family, his mother and his 4 sisters as well. What was that conversation like?
Yeah, you know what? That was amazing. Guy's mom, she was 90 at the time, and you have to realize when we started to meet the people, and when we met Guy's mom, Guy passed away maybe just a few months before that. So it was very emotional with every witness. And we got the chance to go in Thurso. That's where Guy was born. And his mom, she was 90 at the time. Now she's 92. And if I'm not mistaken, she's still living in that house. So we were there in the house where Guy was born and raised. And we were sitting in the kitchen. And Guy's mom told us, where you're sitting right now, that's where Guy used to eat his cereals in the morning. And we were in the living room, and she said that's where Guy used to watch the Montreal Canadiens play with his father and his grandfather. And at that time, he was dreaming about playing in the NHL with the Montreal Canadiens. So that was a pretty amazing story. And Guy's mom, she was very sharp and very generous. She didn't want us to leave. We could have spent the day with her, and she was still hurt. You could tell the way Guy was treated at the end of his career with the Montreal Canadiens when he decided to retire. She was saying, obviously it was in French, but she said they kicked my baby out, and she was still very. She was still mad at the Montreal Canadiens and very emotional.
Obviously, they made her and her husband at the time made a lot of sacrifices. Guy had some natural talent, obviously, but you had to hone his craft. He did that in Quebec City, Montreal, other places. They made a lot of sacrifices for him.
Yeah, no doubt. And when I said she showed us everything, she showed us outside where his dad used to make the outside rink, where Guy learned to skate when he was probably 4 or 5 years old. And so that was pretty amazing. And she told us Guy later on in his life would sit in the kitchen, would try to light a cigarette, because Guy was a smoker. Unfortunately, he died from lung cancer. And she would get mad at him. She would say, "Go outside. This bad habit's going to kill you." And when she was talking about that, she was very emotional, because she lost both her husband and Guy to lung cancer. Both of them were smokers. So yeah, that was pretty amazing. That meeting with Guy's mom.
Also amazing was not only was Guy Lafleur the number 1 overall draft pick of the Montreal Canadiens in 1971, Marcel Dionne was number 2. You have 2 future Hall of Famers going 1-2, and you also spoke with Marcel Dionne.
Yeah, Marcel was very generous as well. I mean, he's very outspoken. Obviously, he's a funny guy, and during their minor hockey, I mean, he was always competing with Guy to see who would be the top. The first guy drafted that year, and until the draft, nobody could guess for sure. I mean, people thought it would be Guy, but Montreal Canadiens even tried to make a trade with the Detroit Red Wings then to get both of them. They were trying to get Guy and Marcel Dionne, and obviously both of them went to have like great careers. And it's funny to say, because Marcel is more like a business person than Guy Lafleur. Obviously, he was an amazing player, but he was more involved on the business side, on contract negotiation and all that. And he said Guy was underpaid all his career. But for Guy, just to play for the Montreal Canadiens, having the chance to win Stanley Cup, that was his salary.
One of the things I don't think many fans, even of the Montreal Canadiens, realize is that in the first 3 seasons of Guy Lafleur's career, he didn't play a lot. Why was that?
No. Well, you know what? When you look at the Montreal Canadiens, I mean, they're the most decorated team in the NHL history, obviously. And when you look at the 70s, it's probably their best era. There was so many Hall of Famer on that team; it's unreal. So you couldn't. Even Larry Robinson, if I'm not mistaken, played 2 years in the minor league before he could get a regular spot on the team. So Guy broke into the league right away. And even though if he didn't play up to that, to what people were expected, Guy his first few years still got an average of 60 points a year. But he was the next big one after the Rocket Richard and Jean Béliveau, so expectations were huge on him. He had a lot of pressure, but this guy wasn't afraid of pressure.
He had his first taste of international hockey at the 1976 Canada Cup, playing with the likes of Bobby Hull and Dennis Potvin. I mean, a number of other superstars. What was Guy like on the international scene?
Well, when you talk to these guys, I mean, they're all the best players, Canadian players, and best players in the world, and all of them are saying it was very, very special to get a chance to play with Guy Lafleur, because, like I said, in the 70s, he was among the best player, if not the best player in the world. When you look at, I think it's 75 and 76 or something like that, he won every trophy in the league. I mean, he won the season MVP, the scoring title. He won the Stanley Cup that year. He won the Connie Smythe, the MVP of the playoff. So all of them realized that he was a very, very special player and a very special man, and they all have great souvenirs of playing with Guy. It was tough to play against him, but they have good souvenirs playing with him.
No doubt about it. Our editor, Steve, here at CHCH has a couple of mementos, including the Scotiabank Hockey College magazine. The 70s was really the first decade, I think, where superstar athletes started to get these kind of recognitions outside from their sport. Let's take advantage of their popularity and market the heck out of these guys to get more fans.
Yeah, you're right. Guy was I don't know how you say in English. I think transcend. He transcended the sport of hockey. Obviously, this guy was was a very special man, so generous. He had so much charisma. I never met somebody with so much charisma. And this guy lived life to his fullest. So on the ice and off the ice, and he was known to party, and he loved to drive his car like very, very fast. He loves to drive Ferrari. He was a helicopter pilot. So this guy was known. Obviously, he's from the Quebec province, but he was known everywhere in North America and probably outside of it. And he was a legend on and off the ice.
I know you played a couple of seasons with Guy Lafleur. I did not know this, but did you know he had a disco album as well?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. That's Guy. And I mean, obviously, being so big, he got approached with a lot of project.
Yeah.
And he was a very curious man. And like I said, he didn't mind when he was on the ice, he would go hard, and when he was partying, he would go hard as well. So this guy lived life to his fullest.
Another international spectacle, the 1981 Canada Cup, and now we have Wayne Gretzky, Gilbert Perreault, Guy Lafleur. I mean, superstar. What a superstar-laden team that was. Yeah,
that's unbelievable. And I got a chance to play with Wayne Gretzky as well with the LA Kings. And when I called Wayne to ask him to do the forward of the book. Mm-hmm. He didn't hesitate 1 second. He said, "Steven, anything for Flower." He said, "I loved the man. He had a big influence in my life, and he was happy to write the forward and was very generous." And he said, in 1981, he learned a lot from Guy, what it meant to be a professional on and off the ice, and what it takes, to win on a consistent basis, to win Stanley Cup. So. Yeah, the Wayne had a lot of respect for Guy Lafleur, and it's pretty amazing what he said. He said in the Montreal Canadiens history, obviously there was a lot of great players that wore that jersey, mm-hmm. and the three biggest names are the Rocket Richard, Jean Béliveau, and Guy Lafleur. And he said Guy, amongst them, was the most electrifying player. As soon as Guy would touch the puck, everybody at the old Montreal Forum would stand up. They knew something would happen. He was so spectacular.
Yeah, he was a lot of fun to watch. We're in discussion with Stephen Finn. He's the co-author of the new book, Lafleur, the Legend, and it's out now, and it's a great read, too. It's a very unique way to tell the Guy Lafleur story. Larry Robinson in the book has a very unique story about Guy Lafleur banging his stick on the table. What's this all about?
Yeah, and I got a taste of it, before every game. Guy, first of all, he was always the first guy at the rink. Guy would be there. He loved the game so much, practice, games and all that. He was always the first guy at the rink, have a few coffee, prepare his equipment and all that. And he was ready to go before everybody showed up at the rink. And before we would go on the ice, like maybe a minute or so before, guys would have their head down, focus, thinking about the game. And Guy would stand up. Nobody would notice, even though he would do it all before every game. And he would hit the table so hard with his stick, everybody would jump. And so that was so funny. But that's what Larry tells in the chapter. And like I said, my heart stopped a few times when he did it.
A few years, and you kind of referenced this just earlier on in our discussion, a few years into his career, Guy realized he was vastly underpaid. He was not getting the amount of money that other superstars, even on his team, were getting. Yeah. That clearly hurt him.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously this guy could have made more money, but like I said, in the 70s it was a different era. The business side of the game wasn't as big as today, obviously, and Guy was happy to play for the Montreal Canadiens and not get a chance to win Stanley Cup until he noticed, and it's Pierre Bouchard that used to play with Guy then. He said they were driving to the rink together, and it was the 15th or the 30th of the month when the players would get paid, and Guy saw, no, not Guy, but Pierre Bouchard saw Guy's check, and he said, "Guy, something's wrong. I make more money than you, So that's when he realized he better fight a little harder when it was time to negotiate his contract.
All this came to a head when Guy said, "You know what? I'm not getting the ice time that I think I need. I'm not getting paid the money that I think I'm worth. I'm going to retire."
Yeah, that was he retired way too early, and then I'm so happy that he came back to the game to make peace, with the game, make peace with the game, and make peace with the Montreal Canadiens, and that's pretty amazing. Only three players in the history of the game came back to play when they were already introduced in the Hall of Fame. That's Gordie Howe, Guy Lafleur, and Mario Lemieux. And Guy, when you think about it, he retired for almost 4 years, and he was able to come back and play and be a good player. He competed, and what a mentor he was for a young player. When he showed up when he came back with the New York Rangers, I talked to Tony Granato, and he said he was a mentor to both me and Brian Leach. Both of them were competing to win the Rookie of the Year that year. I think it was Leach that won it. And when Guy came to the Quebec Nordiques, the same thing. He was such a good mentor for Joe Sakic. Joe was the first one to admit it, and he was such a generous man and wanted these guys to have good career, and he contributed to that.
You mentioned Tony Granato. He has a unique story about Guy Lafleur's stick, and Tony Granato's like, "Hey, I want one of those too." Tell us about that story.
Yeah, Tony, I don't remember exactly, but Tony was struggling a little bit, and he used one of Guy's stick, and he did pretty good with it. So he didn't want to stop playing with it. He was using the same stick, and he did pretty well with it.
Yeah, I'm sure he did.
Yeah.
There's another great story, too, about Canada Cups, and this is Scotty Bowman hiring this high-performance program coordinator to get the team in shape, and Guy was by far and away excelling in that regard.
Yeah, and it's Steve Schott. Well, Scotty Bowman was a great experience for me. Scotty, when I did the interview, was about 89, was about to turn 90. And this guy was so sharp, and he's a pretty intimidating figure. And he was known to be tough with his players, but you could tell he was very emotional, and he got close to Guy at the end of his life. Like he was pretty emotional. But anyway, that Canada Cup, it was Steve Schott that told me the story. He said Guy didn't train all summer. He was partying because they won the Stanley Cup a few months before that.
Yeah.
And he said the training camp was at Montreal Forum, and he said they would make us run around the Forum for, I don't know, 4 miles, 5 miles. And he said Guy would be ahead of everybody. He would lose us, and we were looking for him at the end, and he was already sitting in the dressing room having a smoke. So that was he was a machine, Guy Lafleur. I mean, he was a natural. I mean, with his ability, with his skills, and he was such in great shape. It's amazing. He was a strong man, not the biggest man, but very strong man.
This book is filled with so many amazing stories, including one of the assistant trainer Gaetan Lefebvre, who had a number of great stories and really showed the generosity of Guy Lafleur.
It's amazing. And Guy, when you were in his company, he would make you feel very special. It's like you were the only person in the room. Guy had that gift. He was always trying to share the spotlight, with his teammates. Very, very nice, very generous with teammate. And Gaetan Lefebvre was crying when he told me that story. He said, when I started with the Montreal Canadiens, I didn't make that much money. And so he was going on a date. He was leaving for the weekend from Montreal, going to Quebec. He was going on a date. And Guy said, you cannot go on a date with his jacket, So I don't know what you say, manteau de fourrure. Guy had a fur coat. Then it was in the 70s. It was pretty classy to have a fur coat.
Yeah.
So he gave it to Gaetan Lefebvre. Gaetan had an old used car. Guy rented a nice car for him. Lefebvre didn't know, and when he got in the parking lot, he saw a nice car in his spot, and he didn't understand why. And Guy gave him the keys, and he left an envelope on the seat with cash in it for him to enjoy the weekend in Quebec. So that tells you how this guy was. He was very, very generous, and he made you feel special.
Very classy. And Gaetan Lefebvre would get picked up at school by Guy Lafleur.
Gaetan, when he started, he was going to school, and obviously he was the one opening the dressing room, and Guy loved to get there early. So Gaetan had to the days that the Montreal were playing at the Forum, had to get a special permission from the school director to leave early. And so the director didn't believe him. He said, so Gaetan told the director, well, wait with me, you'll see, it's Guy Lafleur that's going to pick me up. So the guy didn't believe him. And Guy Lafleur showed up at school, pick up Gaetan Lefebvre, just to make sure that he could get to the Forum early and open the dressing room.
You have another great story, too, involving Chris Nilan, who was a Boston Bruins fan growing up as a kid, drafted in the 19th round by the Montreal Canadiens, and he had to convince Guy Lafleur and some other Canadians that he was actually a part of the team.
Yeah, so that was, if I'm not mistaken, that was in '79 in Boston, and Chris was a big Boston Bruins fan, and the Montreal Canadiens beat them in the '70s and in the playoff a lot of times. So anyway, he was driving. Chris was driving around the old Boston Garden. And he saw a few players waiting by the corner for a cab, and I think it was Guy Lafleur, Jacques Lemaire, and maybe another player. So Chris Nilan stopped and he said, "Guys, jump on. I'll give you a ride to the hotel." And these guys didn't know him, and so they weren't afraid. There was 3 players, so they jumped in the car. And Nilan said, "Guys, I got drafted by the Montreal Canadiens this summer or something like that in 19 round, like you said." So guys, these guys were laughing, and Chris said, "I'm going to be your teammate next year." So they were laughing, and Guy Lafleur next training camp show up in the dressing room, and Chris got a chance to dress in the big dressing room at the Montreal Forum, and so Guy said, "Hey, that's you, the guy from Boston. I can't believe you're here." And Chris said, "I told you I'll play with you guys." And Chris started that year in the minors, but he got called up during the year, and he stayed with the team, and he was in love with Guy Lafleur. Guy was so nice to him, helped him to transition to the NHL, to moving from Boston to Montreal, and he took care of Chris Nilan. And Chris told me, he said, "You know what, Steve, when I would fight to protect Guy, after the game, Guy would come to me, put his hand on my shoulder, and he would say, 'Chris, thank you for doing this.' But he said, you don't have to do that for me, you know." So when you're an enforcer, you appreciate when the superstars see what you're doing for them, for the team.
Chris and another Chris Chelios, they found out that Guy Lafleur was retiring. They were among the first people to find out.
Yeah. Guy retired after a game. I think it was at the Montreal Forum for sure. I think it was against Detroit.
Yes.
And he had enough, so he decided he would retire. And the team was flying out of Montreal after the game. They were going somewhere on the road. I don't remember where exactly. And Guy used to travel with Chris and both Chris Nilan and Chris Chelios, and so Guy usually would go and park, and this time he drove them right to the gate. And so both Chris, they said, "Guy, what are you doing?" He said, "Guys, I'm done. I'm not going on a trip. I retire." And these guys couldn't believe it. They were so shaken up. They couldn't believe it. So that's how they find out, and they got into the airport, and they shared that with their teammates.
And the flight, it was to Boston, and as you wrote, you could hear a pin drop because everyone was, surprised that this had happened. Then a few years, pass, and Guy Lafleur is back in the National Hockey League, but he's with the New York Rangers.
Yeah, Guy came back with the New York Rangers, and that's pretty amazing. When I say this guy under pressure was unbelievable, this guy, the first game he came at the Montreal Forum, he scored 2 goals against the Montreal Canadiens, and that's after a 4-year retirement. So when the more pressure there was, the better he was. And I will always remember as well, because when Guy came back to the team, he called a few teams, him and his people around him, they called a few teams, and the LA Kings was one of the teams, because they was dreaming of having a line, Guy Lafleur, Wayne Gretzky, and Luc Robitaille at the time. And the LA Kings, I don't think they call him back. So the first time the Kings came to New York to play against Guy, believe it or not, Guy scored 3 goals that game. And Gretzky tells the story. He said Guy, when he scored his hat trick against us, because Wayne was playing for the LA Kings, he said I was up to take the face off. And I went to the circle and I told the ref, take your time, because the crowd at the Garden were on their feet and they were celebrating that moment. And Gretzky told the ref, don't drop the puck yet. Let Guy enjoy that moment. So Wayne back up a bit and let Guy enjoy the moment in the crowd. And then he went back to the circle and took the face off. And Guy, last game Montreal Forum with the Nordiques, he scored a goal as well. Mm-hmm. So that was amazing.
It's a nice full circle moment, not only for Wayne Gretzky, who said, as you mentioned earlier, learned a lot about being a professional hockey player from Guy Lafleur to give him that moment, and to Guy to end his career in Quebec with the Nordiques. That was pretty special.
Yeah, that was unreal, because the Guy Lafleur legend started when he was a young kid at the Pee Wee tournament. That's an international tournament. Everybody around the world that plays hockey dream to go to that Pee Wee tournament in Quebec. And Guy, already when he played there, he's probably one of the best players that played in that tournament, but was a superstar. It took like the police to let him get out of the building. He was attracting so much attention, and when you think about that, it's not normal as a kid. So that guy growing up was already a superstar, and to be drafted first overall for the Montreal Canadiens, it comes with a lot of pressure, especially when the people see you like the next one. But this guy wasn't afraid, and he performed unbelievably and under pressure.
What you played for 2 seasons with Guy Lafleur? What is your favorite Guy Lafleur story?
Honestly, there's so many. The first one, when you think about it, I was born in '66 in Laval. For those who don't know, it's right across the bridge from Montreal. So in the 70s, I was watching the Montreal Canadiens play, and I never dreamt, first of all, to play in the NHL and to share the dressing room with Guy Lafleur. And the first time Guy walked in the dressing room, the guys, his teammate, his new teammate, we were like groupies. All of us, we asked him for pictures, for autograph and all that. And it was embarrassing for Guy, because Guy was a very humble man, even though he was a superstar, very humble. But so many stories. I mean, one time I walk in the dressing room, and again, I walk in the dressing room. Guy was probably there for 2 hours. We were playing the Russian then. The Red Army used to come to North America during the Christmas break, and we were playing the Red Army, and I saw Guy in the dressing room. He was drilling holes in his blade, hockey blade, his stick. And I said, Guy, what are you doing? He said, you know what? When I go down with my stick, since there's hole in the blade, there will be less traction, so I'll have a harder shot. So he was always looking, even if he was so good, was always looking for ways to improve. And that game, he got a breakaway, and he in the slot, he took a slap shot. The Red Army goalie, like Deck, he went down. He was afraid of Guy's shot, and. Like when I said he loves to share the spotlight, my first game on the road, I was co-captain. Then I was wearing the C on the road, and Joe Sakic was wearing the C at home. And during the first period, I got I got hit with a stick. I got cut for 10 stitches over the eye. And when I came back, it was a pretty rough game against Hartford. So I dropped the glove, and I got into a fight. And after the game, obviously, in Hartford, all the reporters were around Guy. And Guy walked to my stool, put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, he told the reporter, he said, our captain is pretty gutsy, huh? That's character like that. We need to win, you know. So I'll never forget that. Like it was so generous, and it was a way to give me credit, you know.
That's amazing. What do you think Guy's legacy is?
You know what? To be go after your dream. Believe in your dream and go after them. Be humble, even though you're a big superstar. Be humble, and I think live life to its fullest. He was so passionate about everything he did, you know. So I think it's his biggest legacy.
It's an incredible montage of stories from Hall of Famers, from players to coaches to everyone in between. Stephen, great job writing this book. It was an awesome read. Thank you so much for joining us on the Newsmakers podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
That is Stephen Finn, and that's a wrap for us. Thanks for checking out the Newsmakers podcast, and a big thank you to the All-Star cast behind the scenes. If you liked today's episode, click the thumbs up, hit subscribe, leave a comment as well. Catch the Newsmakers podcast on chch.com/podcasts and wherever you get your favorite podcasts.